Hey guys, it's Simon here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're going to be doing another review for a comic book. Today we're going to be looking at God Country by Donny Cates, Jeff Shaw, Jason Wardy, and John Lau, I think is his name. No, John Hill, sorry. Can't read my own handwriting. So, yeah. First of all, the reason why Donny Cates basically disappeared for a while apparently was because he was severely injured in some sort of accident. I think it was some sort of car crash. He lost his memory. He's been in recovery. He recently came back around. He has returned to social media, and I hope the best for him. But I don't know if he's going to come back to writing anytime soon. And I think that's actually why there was so many weird situations, weird issues with the way that Vanish was handled. That makes sense to me. That sounds correct. But I really hope that he's doing better. I hope that he gets all of his memories back and he can find out what he missed, and he can do, he can get better. I really hope the best for him, as a person. And whether he returns to comic book writing or not, it's up to him. But I really do hope he does, because he writes really great comic books, and this is one of them. So, yeah. The publisher here is Image. This is a one and done type story. It has like 7 issues, or like there's 6, but they're kind of big. And I wish there was a hardcover version of this that had more extra stuff to it, if there's any, because this does have extras in it, but all the extras are just secondary covers, and then like a tiny little sketchbook. And if they made a hardcover that had more stuff to it, I would have liked that. But it doesn't really matter. It's a good story. I really, really enjoyed it. The demographic here is mature, not necessarily because there's anything like raunchy or anything like that in this, but rather because the subject matter feels a little bit too like real or too adult for like a 14-year-old to understand. Like, this is like mostly dealing with like an old man having problems and dealing with his mortality, right? And young people might understand that, but they might actually not as well. So I think that's why it's rated mature. It's not necessarily for anything else. It does have violence and stuff like that, but all comic books have violence and shit, so it's not really that big of a deal. The genre is fantasy, and honestly, you could argue that this is more like magical realism, where there's like a real world and then there's like a magical element that comes into the world. But I'm not really sure that that would really work. There might be some pushback from people that are actually in the, in that kind of community, saying that this is not. But I mean, my very vague understanding of magical realism, this feels like it fits. But, just to be safe, let's call it a fantasy, right? So, yeah, and it does not have an adaptation, but a one-off movie, like animated movie or like a real life movie, would be pretty badass. Like, this would be really, really good. It's not enough content for a show, but a movie would be really, really nice. Yeah, and in terms of a rating, right off the bat, it's a 5 out of 5. It's so good. It's really, really great. A little bit of the emotional impact to me was lost because I already knew the story and I had already had my emotional reaction to the story initially when I watched the Comic Bop episode on it, but it's still a really, really great story. I really enjoyed it. I was primed to like it thanks to that episode, and once I read it, I loved it. I thought it was great. But if you're someone that really likes to have your initial emotional reaction be completely your own, maybe don't watch past the premise of this video and just go and get the book by yourself. But it's really, really good. I definitely recommend it. If you do happen to stay, though, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. So the premise here is that there's this old man who lives in Texas. His name is Emmett Quinlan, and he's dying. He's old. And he has Alzheimer's, which is a very difficult thing to deal with for him personally, but also for his son and his son's family, because this guy is an old school kind of guy. He's a rather violent man, and his Alzheimer's makes him a very unpredictable guy. And so he's dangerous, right? One day, something happens. This crazy tornado blows through this rural area of Texas, and a magic demon comes out of it, and then a magic sword follows. And Emmett manages to grab the sword. He remembers all of his life, kills the monster, and then it unravels into this really interesting story about this old man trying to maintain his memories now that he has a way to do so, but also having to do with the fact that the sword is a dangerous object that is bringing attention to him from another realm, from a god that is very dangerous for him and his family. And It's a really, really wonderful story. There's a great emotional impact here that is wonderful. So I'll leave it there. If you're interested in this and you don't want to have anything spoiled, please click away now. If you're interested and you don't mind about spoilers, or you're just interested in seeing someone else's opinion on it, I welcome you. Let's get started with the actual review. So the plot line here is great. It starts in Texas. A young family is picking up an old man from this precinct, basically, in this little rural town, in this kind of middle of nowhere type of place, like maybe somewhere in Waxahachie or something, like some random place in Texas. There's this old man. He has a little house, and he has Alzheimer's, and his son is picking him up from the police station because he recently got in trouble because of his Alzheimer's, right? And this old guy's fucked up. Alzheimer's is fucked up. And like I said, a monster tornado passes through. It deposits this evil thing, destroys Emmett's house, and he gets a sword, a random giant sword. And this sword actually happens to be a god called Valifox. And Valifox saves his home, saves his family, and returns his memories to him, because in order to wield this sword, you have to be in your best. And that means restoring, healing its wielder. And so he has the Alzheimer's removed from him while he holds the sword. He can't let go of it or he'll forget. This brings trouble, of course, because Valifax belongs to Atom, this god that is like this elder god of the universe. He is like Odin, basically. He created this sword out of a dying star, or out of a living star. He decimated a whole galaxy, or a whole solar system, I think, in order to create this sword. But the sword is also a god, and so it has its own sentience, and it has like Thor's hammer almost. Like, it has a reason to pick its wielders. They have to be worthy of handling him. And right now, Atom is not. And so anytime the sword ends up anywhere, it finds a wielder, and this time it happens to be Emmett. How he's worthy is not really explained. It's not that important. The point is that Valifax has connected with Emmett, and as long as he holds Valifax, he has his memories, and he can have a good time with his family, right? And someday, randomly, Atticus, or Arturus, I think is his name, shows up. This guy is the son of Atom, and he's come for the sword, but he's sent back by Emmett. You know, he doesn't want to fight. He's like, hey man, you got my dad's sword. You can keep it because by right, it is yours. But if you do, my father is going to try everything in his power to remove it from you. Are you sure you want to deal with this? Emmett, being an old Texas guy, is like, yeah, bring it on. If you want it, come get it. And so Articus, or whatever his name is Aristus is his name. Aristus is sent back to his father, and his father, of course, is quite angry at Aristus, and sends down Baelgrim, Aristus' only living brother left, who happens to be a death god, and also maybe like a god of trickster. So if Aristus is Thor and Adam is Odin, then this guy would be Loki in the Marvel kind of side of things, right? But he sends him down. He's a god of death. And he uses a bunch of like undead, right? And Valifax and Emmett have to fight him. And there's a lot of human tension here. There's tension between Emmett, who is basically trying his best to protect his family right now because he doesn't want to give up the sword, but the sword is also allowing him to protect them. So, like, to him, in his old-fashioned kind of way, it's like, I gotta do this, right? But his son is like, dude, if you let the sword go and give it back to them, you'll have your Alzheimer's back, but we'll be safe, and we'll try our best to help you. But Emmett doesn't want people's help. He wants to deal with it himself, right? And this causes issues between them. This causes issues with his son's wife, and Dina, his granddaughter, thinks it's all really cool. She's like, damn, Grandpa has a cool sword, and there's shit happening that's really, really awesome, right? So Emmett has to go fight directly with Baelgrim. He manages to defeat him. Valifax actually undoes the enchantments that Baelgrim has, so that all of the souls that are not being allowed to rest manage to go back to rest, and they kill Baelgrim. Then Aristus shows up to battle again. He's like, dude, I'm sorry, but now I have to battle you, even though I don't want to. we have to make this work. He shows up with Adam's giant hammer thing, and they have a battle. Emmett wins because Valifax is badass. And then they go directly to Adam. And we have this big final battle with Adam, with Atom, I guess is the right way to say it. And then there's this really beautiful death scene for Emmett. Emmett happens to die, but there's a wonderful bit of resolution between Emmett and his son that is so good. There's a really great moment. There's this kind of catharsis, right? Because Emmett, in his old-fashioned ways, is not a good father. Like, he teaches the son to be strong, but he doesn't teach his son to care, or that he cares. He doesn't show his son that he cares, which, you know, is something that a lot of young men have probably dealt with. And then in his last moments, he's like, okay, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I tried my best for you. Here are all of the memories. Here's how I saw you as a boy. And here's all of the feelings that I can never tell you. And he gives them to him in his last moments. And it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's so wonderful. And it's just so good. Like, I love it. It's really, really good. It's great. It's wonderful. So the story is 100% God tier. Like, it's great. I love it so much. In terms of characters, we have Emmett, Roy, who's his son, Jane, who's Roy's wife. We have Dina, who is Roy's daughter, Valifax, Aristus, Baelgrim, and Atom. In terms of world building, the gods are all cool. They have these the vibe that they have is Nordic, but the way that they dress feels more like Roman. And they're very, very cool, and they're super awesome and interesting looking. They have a very distinct style to them, and Valifax is awesome. He has this moment where he says, "I am anything that is sharp. I have, endless sentience across the galaxy, across everything, the universe, because anywhere that is something vaguely like a sword, I'm in it. And I'm Excalibur and Durandal and all of the other swords of legend." And it's so cool. But there really isn't too much world building beyond the basic of, like, these gods exist, this is how they are, and this is the plot line, right? So it's not like expansive, but all of the world building that's here is because it needs to for the story to be the way it is. And the story is great, so it's all perfect. I really like it. In terms of artwork and fan service, there's no fan service, as in there's no like raunchy stuff. However, there's a certain level of fan service for people that like fantasy stories, because there's badass gods and a badass sword that has superpowers, and it's nice that the sword talks and it's fun, and there's like elements like that, right? The artwork is super good. It has this really rough feeling to it, but it's amazing, and the colors are wonderful. Let me see if I can show you a few pieces of artwork here. That's Aristus. Here's Baelgrim. Or actually, I think this is Atom, actually. Let's see if I can find Baelgrim. There you go, that's Baelgrim. Nice colors. Really like it. It's really, really good stuff. Like, Jeff Shaw and John Wordy did a great job with this. It's so good in terms of how it looks. And the rating, like I said, it's a 5 out of 5. It's so good. It has a lot of readability. Like, you can just read this over and over again because it's so poignant, so true to life. I guess there's a certain level of reality to the fact that, sometimes fathers are bad at communicating with their sons, especially older generations. And there's also this kind of like beautiful sacrifice and this kind of like inherent, like, this is what it means to be like a good man, right? But you can read into it or you cannot. It really depends on your preference here. To me, it does kind of have that vibe, like, yeah, you can fuck up, but as long as you do the right thing eventually, it kind of has that Star Wars vibe to it, right? Where like Anakin is forgiven even if all the shit that he did as Darth Vader is immensely horrible because of the nature of the story, right? And it's so good. I really, really like it. I think it's just wonderful. And the emotional payoff is great. I love it so much. It's really, really good. So there you go. That's my review of God Country. Let me know if you guys liked it. Let me know if you guys have read the story and what you thought about it. Let me know how you felt about it after reading it. And thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.